questions. I hope, sir, you continue with your good questions.
Be the first to know Nsem-Pii TV.
Yes, say John Dramani Mahama. Asudi kesiye pa na say abeton so far no it's been a straight fight between Ono and Dr. Bawumia. Now amount for a defective from the National Democratic Congress and they call the New Patriotic Party, all because of Dr. Bawumia no agin semu kakra say no enino ayefe because obia ehwenimu say this a broad competition eba be happen between these two nordness will be something forced to reckon with, because to say no emu ayefan all forces will be patrolling behind Dr. Bawumia for the NPP. After so no we compare the two it seems experience sake any track records ebe kasa papa on the side of Dr. Bawumia digital man Nsem wadi atudwa ne mu didi ani penya nyina ebededi afesu yewura John Dramani Mahama Nsem obeka e wo Ghana ha dinte tu no dinte opeso oba no say aya asudi kese so abeda no so eno Nana Akomea edi kwakye fosu afa training kese mu papa na training we emu odu in the sense so many comparisons na ekoso seni amanfo start no butu ahase no wodi kwakye fosu akọ school a wo kire ne say so be free NDC mu na se wo join NPP it takes a kase na kire se nipa no ahunu bibia wo hu se emu ebeye at the permanent, because the NDC no for so many times yala manfo bebre kan sem fa ho na Randy ebusa no yewura Nana Akomea se na se nyahotamakulu esu efire NPP ko NDC enei nyahotamakulu si wonu no ho kura so ko the NDC, because want me make any influence on NDC omo flag bearership and I say omo leadership role. Enti Nana Akomea kan sem waka sem pa then sem waka no me patcho mi enkotie what okan emuodu pa futu ekoma all NDC folks, because she said Dr. Bawumia is the flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party. We enkotie Nana Akomea.
And he's like, hey, all of you are here. We don't even talk about it. I have never conferred with the MD of State House, and even though it's just next door to me, or the MD of the Digital Center. So for anybody to imagine that we are supporting Bawumia because we are government appointees and we've been shaped, it's a figment of their own imagination. Apart from it being an insult to tell us that we don't have a mind of their own. And Felix has a penchant for that kind of insult. It's the same thing that he's doing to Mr. Kofi Benton. You know, the same kind of mindset. That if somebody has an opinion that is different from Felix, then that person hasn't got a mind of their own. He was quoting some professor at Legon who also says, as for that professor, he has a mind of his own. You know, that professor has a mind of his own.
He's a professor.
Yeah, so he has a mind of his own.
Yes.
But the rest of them, the Kofi Bentons and so on, as for them, they don't have a mind of their own. They are being engineered. What kind of shambolic analysis is this? Then he talks about Samira. I don't know if Felix has a personal problem with Samira, obviously.
Why?
Well, because he says Samira came to his constituency and said some things that he didn't like. But let me tell you, I listened to, I've heard a playback. I didn't hear Samira attack anybody. He didn't mention anybody's name. So I thought that the attacks on her by some of these other people are unfair. Because he didn't mention anybody's name. So I thought the attacks are unfair. And so to come here to sit on it to advise her, don't do that. If she came to your constituency and said things that you believe are unsavory, say it and let's deal with it. Don't go and hide behind that and attack her and say that she has to be careful and all that. She didn't mention anybody's name. Now,
but she definitely was speaking about one of three people.
Or it could be 3 or 3 people.
Yes.
Because basically a lot of them are saying the same things.
Yes. So
now,
any of the 3 can tell the cat.
But he didn't mention anybody's name for you. Now, you know, when you are the front runner, Randy.
Yes.
You see, and really that is what is key. When you are the front runner, those who are not front runners, they ascribe all kinds of machinations to you. And when Felix was running around that the people are being shipped and so, I was laughing. Because the same thing happened to John Mahama. And I'm going to read to you what his contestants said about him. Even Felix, a clear front runner in his constituency, when he won, the lady who contested Felix, do you know what she said about Felix? You want me to read it to you? Clearly, Felix was the front runner. He had been the candidate in the last election, lost by quite a close margin, isn't it? And so it makes sense to repeat, and with Felix's profile, and he was talking about Bawumia's profile and so on. With your profile, it was very clear that the delegates were going to go for you against somebody who was totally unknown. And yet, what the woman said about Felix's victory, totally unsavory. Talking about manipulation and how people have come to the establishment have come to support. Very, very unsavory. So even in your own case, because of your profile, you were attacked. And you thought it was unfair for those attacks. Now you are coming here to do the same to other people. When you are the front runner, chief, you will become the subject of attacks. When I was the front runner in Okakwe South, the things they said about me, some of them are totally stupid. But there are things like I haven't done national service. This is in 1996. They said I hadn't done national service, and they went to court to prevent me from standing. And all kinds of other things. Then, anytime they saw any nice building in the area, they said, the building is for Nana Akomea. He's the MP, he's chopping your money. This building is for him. This fuel station is for him. Because they're not saying the same thing about other contestants, just me, because I was the front runner. And when you were the front runner, the same things have been said about you. John Mahama has been your front runner. Who doesn't know that John Mahama has been the favorite of the NDC going into the 2020 NDC parliamentary primaries, presidential primaries? And yet, what didn't these people say about him? Look, the Guzitanos, what they said about JDM in 2018 leading up to their primaries, the Kenjurasas, we don't have a lot of time, the Boatin Jans in 2022. And indeed, in the 2020 election, all the aspirants came together. All the aspirants of the NDC came together and formed one unit against John Mahama. The 6th, and let me read just this one because it's very important. City News, January 27, 2019, says the 6 presidential aspirants petitioned over the printing of ballots and the register. And they wanted the printing to be given to a trustworthy firm, the Assembly Press, so that irregularities that rocked the NEC elections in November, they're talking about their national elections, the national executive elections in November 2018, don't recur, particularly the presence of duplicate ballot papers with same blah, 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 blah. The 6 of them came together against John Mahama. Same thing. Because John Mahama was clearly the favorite. And when it happens in Bawumia's case, Felix is come to sit here and say that we've been tripped. You see the hypocrisy? And why I'm telling you that it will not work? If we're to go to what, this is your last one, the 2023 primaries, what Dufour said, what his followers, Boatinjan, and so on. There was one particular chap that everybody says they don't know him in the NDC. It's called Agbe. And he described your friend. I think you are the only person who knows him. He says he described the processes, and it's just 2023. He described the processes.
It's the title. The way you mention his title, that's why I love.
Now, this is what Agbe said. He described the processes as a charade and a choreographed shenanigan. It is extremely dubious, criminal, and illegal for the processes leading to the presidential to be hijacked for Mahama. This is what the Dufour camp was saying. And Dufour himself, indeed, Dufour actually stood down because he thought that the whole process had been. Indeed, at one point when he was actually going to make donations to the council, they said they wouldn't allow him. Remember, at one point, somebody gave forms to an applicant at the NDC head office. That person was sacked. He later even died recently. So, is it that the whole process was manipulated for John Mahama, if we are to believe what Felix is saying today? Now, in the NPP case, it's even more funny, because you even had contestants with Bawumia, who also had government appointees following them. But then they said that they were the ones following as their few. Can you imagine? You have government appointees, ministers of state, deputy ministers of state, chief executives, and all kinds of party and government appointees following you. And yet, they too, they were complaining about Bawumia being followed by government appointees. Does it make sense? And I don't know if they were engineered by Felix, but that's how funny it was. You have people, ministers of state, deputy ministers, following you, and then you go and complain about those who are following another person. That's how, when you are the front runner, that's sometimes how silly that the attacks on you can be. And then Felix says that the Bawumia thing is just ethnocentric. Really? Okay. Whatever you call it, Felix, you and your collaborators in the NDC, whether you call it tribalism, whether you call it ethnocentricity, I can tell you, we will support Bawumia and we will bring him to face you. It doesn't matter where he comes from. It could have been Ever. It could have been anybody. It's not just Bawumia. It could have been an Ever candidate. We're saying that that candidate would be able to give us the chance to meet your propaganda. So it's not even just Bawumia. It just happens that Bawumia will fall into that bracket. But it could have been an Ever person. It could have been a Ghana person. That is what we are saying. That it gives us an inclusive face that allows us to deal with your propaganda, whether you like it or not. We will deal with that propaganda. We are going to present a candidate that will let that propaganda fall into the water. And I come to talk about Safo Mafren. He says it's our own doing. Because we project ourselves as a can party. We've never done that. Fine. Safo Mafo, you say he made some remarks. Safo Mafo's remarks are unfortunate. But do you want me to tell you the remarks that people like Kofi Awuno and E.T. Mensah have said about your party? You want me to repeat them? What they've said about your party? Now, says Akufo-Addo said, Kamfo. You know that thing, Akufo-Addo, they didn't do justice to him. Akufo-Addo said, yes, say, Kamfo. And he was speaking to his people. They said that they say you are Khan's people, you fear things. It's the same thing with the Jachi Kwesin thing, where they said Akufo-Addo said the man will be jailed. Because Akufo-Addo had preceded his statement and said, because the Jachi Kwesin has said that even in prison, he will be MP and he will serve his people. And Akufo-Addo had preceded his statement and said, this is what they are saying. And that would you prefer somebody who is in prison to be your MP? But they cut off that portion and then said that Akufo-Addo says the man will be jailed. Same with the Yen Akamfo. When you listen to the whole speech, he said, yes, see Yen Akamfo. So it's all just propaganda. And then we are being told that Bawumia has failed in the economic management and that election is always a referendum on the incumbent, and we have failed. And he gave us all kinds of statistics to show that we have failed. But you said the same things leading up to the 2020 elections. You said those things here and elsewhere. Just a repeat, if I'm to...
Nsem-Pii TV